Eat it away. How about you keep it alive? Eat it away. I don't feel my ops. Better with me, I'm a stay. Kick up my feet on the plane. Homie, I'm eating away.
What it do, y'all? What it do, y'all? It's your boy Nico Blends with the latest episode of the Nico Knows Wrestling Podcast. We come to you live on Tuesday. Actually, I'm tripping. It's Monday because Raw's on right now. Your boy Bucky. Let me get a grip on it. Let me get a grip on it. But how y'all doing? Hope y'all doing real good today. And today I'm going to be doing my recap of AEW New Japan Forbidden Door 2023. That was recently out there in Toronto last Sunday. I meant to upload this video last week, but I did have to go back and watch the replay twice. It was definitely worth the money, I can tell you that. I'm not going to go too deep into the 0 hour topic of things. I did want to congratulate Athena for getting that win. Great match that she had with Billy Starks, Billy Zane show. I'm not sure. I have to look back on that. I'll get with you. But great victory for her. I also saw that they had the Gates of Agony defended their Ring of Honor 3-man championships. I do know AEW like to call it the trios, but yeah, big win for them too. And we get on into the main card of thing. I think there are 11 matches in total. We did find out that Adam Cole, unfortunately, would not be wrestling on the card as he had a fever. And so they could run it down to, I think, about 7 matches, but it never said it was a long card. One thing I can always say about AEW, and I do mean that, is that you get your money's worth. You know, their show is about 3-4 hours long. You're not going to get a lot of video packages. You might get 1 or 2, but mostly the action is going to come in the ring. And for people like me, I got to say I appreciate that. Well, let's get on into it here. And so the first match on the card, of course, was the Devil, MJF, Maxwell Jacob Freeman, defending the AEW championship against Tanahashi. And overall, you know, I got to say, I really did think it was a solid match. I liked it, MJF, and he's a smug bastard that he is. You know, and he came out and had a nice crowd reception, I can say that, for Tanahashi. They did seem to acknowledge that, you know, he man was a legend. And the Ace is definitely someone who New Japan built his fortune on for a long time, and he's an icon over there in Japan. I did have to say, though, he looked a little bit slow. He definitely looked a step slow, and I had to think, you know, he's over 40. If this was 10 years ago, this might have been you know, a barn burner, as they like to say. But with him being already over 40 and so much wear and tear on the body, you know, it was a much more slower, methodical pace than what the match was he had with Swerve on Saturday night on Collision. You know, I did like that they kind of threw that in there about the turnbuckle, because he did take a long time to climb the turnbuckle at one point. And I was like, I don't even think this guy really should be doing a lot of the aerial moves that he's even considering, you know, depending on the state of how his knees are looking. I like the whole aspect of Max leaving. You know, like the typical heel just walking out on the match. I'll forget this shit. I'm gone. I'm out of here. Give me my belt. I'm gone. You got to beat me to take this. And then he comes back. Great selling, honestly, too, on the part of both of them, especially MJF when you get to that knee spot where he got ready to do the power driver, where Tanahashi leaned inside in the ropes. And instead, Tanahashi reversed it, kind of threw him off him, and he landed pretty hard on both of his knees there in the middle of the ring. He kind of sold that for the rest of the match, too. And it definitely looked like it hurt. And of course, I was wondering why we was going to get the finish. You know, Tanahashi went on ahead and tried to do that frog splash that he has, his famous frog splash. And of course, MJF stopped it. They had a little bit of a herky-jerky kind of shit going on with the ref, but eventually he ended up hitting him with the dynamite diamond ring. Boom! And the Devil gets the win. You know, so I had no problem with that. I didn't want to see MJF lose. I don't think the majority of AEW's audience wanted him to lose. I just think it was a good, you know, way to highlight him against somebody that's well known from over there. And then we get to match 2, which is CM Punk versus Shijoma. And I gotta say, the crowd reception for CM Punk was crazy because I didn't expect him to get heavy cheers there, but I didn't expect the boos to be as overwhelming as they were. And I guess part of it had to be because Kenny, being from Canada, because they ended up booing the Bucks later on, but I'll touch on that. But yeah, they booed the shit out of CM Punk, and I'm gonna be honest, I had no idea who Shijoma was, had never saw him, but I really enjoyed this match. Punk definitely realized that he was already the heel when he came out and did his entrance. He really leaned into that shit, and I really liked that. Like, okay, I'm gonna get booed. I'll work the heel and be the bad guy. And I didn't really do too much, but he definitely, he taunted the crowd, so to say. And for me, I really enjoyed that. Really enjoyed him doing that. A lot of the chops and everything looked pretty real. Kajunga was definitely, like I said, he was the face by default right here. Punk definitely played it up. And he even had a spot where they were outside the ring, and Tajoma gave him a chop, and Punk flipped over the desk by the announcer. It's like, man. But eventually, of course, Punk was able to get the win. And I really think, once again, nobody in their mind doubted that CM Punk was going to not win. I do think he's going to probably end up winning the Owen Hart tournament. I don't see him losing anytime soon. Honestly, I just don't see that, especially with what he has going on. Especially, the future angle with him. Say, yeah, possibly see it with some more Joe as well. And so then we meet the match 3, the match I definitely liked a lot for the AEW International Championship. With the champion Orange Cassidy versus Daniel Garcia of the Jericho Appreciation Society. Gotta wait, man. I love that damn dance, man. You gotta hit it with the That's why I always be playing that song, man. It's a banger. It's a banger. And of course, again, it's the TV champion of New Japan, Zack Sabre Jr., and Shibata, the Ring of Honor peer champion, if I'm not mistaken. And it was a pretty great match, a lot of great spots. Definitely some of the shit was kind of telegraphed though to the eye. You've been watching wrestling as long as I had. I like the transition to the armbar that Zack Sabre Jr. did also. And Daniel Garcia getting a chance to get fired up and get some offense in. Being the only guy without a belt in the match, I definitely like that. He didn't look like he was out of his element. It didn't look like he was just some scrub. Because we all know DG could go. Boy did beat Brian Danielson. So I think we're so far removed from that, it's almost hard to remember. I think sometimes that's what happens with AEW when they don't end angles too soon. They wait too long to pull the trigger. Gotta be like Orange. Pew, pew. How Kevin Hart say, pew, pew. Everybody go down. Pew, pew. But yeah, that was a great match. Of course, Orange Cassidy came out successful. I think that is about 23, 24 in a row. I am starting to wonder when exactly he might be losing that belt, though. And who possibly could take it from him. But that'll be a short one day I'll do. Hopefully before the title reign ends. And so we get the match 4 here. We have the Elite, Eddie Kingston, and of course Ishii versus the Black Combat Club, John Moxley, Claudio Castagnoli, and Yuta Wheeler. And we have Takashita and their other tag team partner, Umino. And they came out to a rousing cheer boos. I'm glad they didn't do the wild thing, being that, they really wanted to establish they was bad guys coming through the crowd. And I really did. Takashita looks pretty good, man. Dude looks really good. He's very big, got some size on him. Him and Ishii was kind of throwing them things, definitely. And then we got to Eddie Kingston and Moxley getting in the middle of the ring. And they were going at it, like going chop for chop. Absolute chop for chop. Mox's chest was really red at some point. And the rest of the guys just outside just watching, and then eventually end up going. And they had their, everybody just kind of broke out into a brawl. So that was pretty cool to see that. And of course, Ishii ends up getting the win after a hell of a kind of match and a lot of chaos with the brainbuster on Wheeler. Yuta definitely think Daniel Bryan don't getting that ass about taking that loss. He be getting on about that. Like, we don't like weakness. And then, of course, we had the AEW Women's Championship on the line with Toni Storm going off against Willow, the New Japan Strong Women's Championship. And it was a solid match. I had no issues with this. Definitely gave it 4 out of 5, maybe even 4.5. Very physical. Toni Storm's even got to bust open a little bit in the nose. They even end up getting Sarai. I don't think Sarai was even down there, but I think Ruby Soho even got pulled from being out there. I think bad. I think Paige was there. A lot of smooth transitions too. And of course, Toni Storm ends up pulling off the win by hook or by crook, hitting it with the Storm Zero. And she will roll on while being our AEW Women's Champion. And then we get to the match where I really feel should have been the main event, which was the Kenny Omega versus Will Ospreay match. Great entrance video by Will Ospreay first off, before him coming to the ring. That shit looked real smooth. I liked that. Definitely made it had like a big fight, big match kind of feel. And this was for the New Japan United States Heavyweight Championship, a belt that Kenny's definitely had for a few times. And man, these guys, it's like what they didn't do. Kenny got thrown through a table outside, head bust open, bleeding very early. Very early. That rolling elbow that they hit was stiff as hell. He even gave Kenny a V-trick. Shit, he even gave him a one-wing angel, which Kenny ended up kicking out at the one. Like, how dare you disrespect me like that, William? And I was on the edge of my seat right there, because I kind of thought that was going to be it. I didn't like the Don Callis interference. I like the story it didn't need him added to it. It was good enough where it didn't need him added to it at all. That Spanish fly that Will did too was excellent as hell. And then they trading Germans. That was a bit much for me. I'm like, man, a German supposed to hurt. When Brock Lesnar hit somebody who's German, your ass ain't popping back up like, I'm sorry. But I get it. And I'm gonna even know here, I was like, that's a long ass match. It was good, but it was definitely a long ass match. Honestly. And he even gave him the screwdriver at one point while Kenny had him up, where Callis slipped him the screwdriver, and that still wasn't even the turning point of the match. Kenny still was able to overcome a lot of shit, but Will end up getting him after giving him his finisher. And I mean, Will pulled out every deck in the card to get this win. And then we also had Sonata, the IWGP Heavyweight Champion, defending his belt against Jungle Boy Jack Perry. I did not give Jungle Boy a chance in hell of winning this match. I'm going to just be honest. I didn't think he had a chance, being that Sonata had just became champion not long ago. And I just didn't think New Japan would be having their heavyweight champion over on the AEW roster. Unless it was like Kenny Omega, somebody they got exclusive dealings with, I just didn't see that shit happening for Jungle Boy. And it was an okay match. I didn't like that whole tie-up spot. I liked it as it looked cool and shit, like, he had tied him up and like he was calf or some shit with some rope. And he rounded that boy out. But it was more or less, it just took too long. Like, if he'd have just did it and then did the drop kick, it would have looked better. But he did it and posed and, yeah. But of course, he ended up winning, getting the W. Jungle Boy's looking all sad, like Shawn Michaels. He done lost his smile and shit. And then we go back to the next thing you know, you look up, what had happened, bam, he done hit Hook with a clothesline, heel turn, which I've been kind of expecting. I've been expecting this since all them promos that he was doing leading up to the Fatal 4-Way at Double or Nothing. They were real heelish. He was starting to, being a good guy ain't get me nowhere. Worrying about what you guys say, worrying about you guys' support. It ain't get me nowhere. I ain't getting no championships. I want to be a champion. We got to turn his back on the crowd. So when he achieves something, he feels like, you know what? I did it without you. I didn't need you. I never needed you. That's the way, that's the way you really feel. Where already said, I'm out here with the baddest bitcher in this place. I was like, damn. Talking like Anna Joe knew you was gonna say that beforehand, my brother. But yo, that was definitely wild. That was definitely wild. It's like wow, boy, Jack. He ain't even Jungle Jack no more. You Jack Perry. You know what I'm saying? You just Jack. And so then we finally get to the main event of the night, which is Daniel Bryan versus Okada. And again, they had a great big match feel. Daniel even came out to his iconic song that he hadn't heard since Ring of Honor days. I know you guys know it's off the slip of my tongue, man. What is going on? I'm having such a brain fart right now. Damn, I gotta remember the name of this song. Final countdown. That's what it was. That's what it was. But yeah, I had to sing it to myself a little bit just to remember, man. But yeah. So anyway, we get to the point where they get there, they come out, and Daniel Bryan why am I calling him Daniel Bryan? I'm thinking back to the Fed, with Bryan Danielson. He even has the braids in, and he's, he got that look like he's about to go to war. And they start off with some hard chops, very stiff kicks, even some elbow off the top rope. And, definitely like Okada just ate that shit. Just ate it. And then I remember Daniel playing possum at one point, checking to see if he's okay. He gets right back up, bam. And I think that was actually the point where he broke his arm, because he ended up breaking his arm, he said, at the end of the match. That bone just snapped a little bit. And it came from that top rope move that he took from Okada. And he took that top rope elbow. But yeah, I like how the cameras panned out even when they got ready to do the Rainmaker. Like, they panned all the way out, which was awesome. That was looking at some New Japan type stuff right there. And I like how he was even able to reverse the knee. And then he kicked out of the, he got hit with two of the knees, then he reversed it. And then he got him with the Rainmaker, and Bryan kicked out of that. And I was amazed that even when the finish came, that he actually got in the tap, which was really surprising because I did not expect this match to end in a submission. You'd have told me that's how it ended. I would have never guessed that. Would have never guessed that at all. So I was a bit shocked with that. But man, I'm a tired day. I had to power through to get done with this recap. But y'all take it easy. Y'all boys be breezy. Y'all ladies too. And I'm gonna stick around with your boy. Have more fun. Y'all take it easy. Take it easy.